Hi.
Hello.
Hi guys.
Hi,
Hi
everyone.
everyone. Hi.
Hello. Good morning. Hello. Or good
Right.
afternoon.
So we
Wonderful
got
to meet you.
Jane and we've got Anna here. Welcome.
Hi guys.
And I think we're gonna jump right into this sucker. So let me hit record, and because we want to talk about this movie. Hold on.
Good to see you, John. I was wondering, your name wasn't on my schedule. I was wondering when I would see you today. I saw your comment.
Absolutely. Well, here we go. We are on filmsgonewild.com and Bitch Talk. I'm John Wildman, and I'm here with my co-hosts Angela Tabora and Erin Lim, and we are virtually at Sundance 2021. And this one is a fun one for me. One, because it's a type of film that's so up my alley, but also because the director is a friend, Jane Schoenbrun, and we have Anna Cobb, who we're being introduced to in this film. And for this interview and for the film, we're all going to the World's Fair. All right, so Jane, let's start off with you because we always begin these segments by having our filmmaker introduce the audience who hasn't seen the movie yet. Tell them what the movie's about.
We're All Going to the World's Fair, which is my first feature film, is a film about a young woman participating in an online horror role-playing game inspired by the creepypasta community, which is a real community of people online who essentially tell each other and collaboratively create really elaborate and as scary as possible stories, sort of like the internet's version of campfire tales. And the movie itself is really interested not so much in like big scares, but in exploring emotionally, creating a space to explore the internet and intimate relationships on the internet, but also to express sort of a coming of age to explore this sort of creative expression online.
Well, and it also, I'll tell you, what I was loving about it is I love descent into madness films, and this film, it takes us down a path where we're questioning what we're watching, and with Anna's character, we're like going, holy crap, what's going on with her, and just what is she going to be capable of, and what's going on. And I know I think Angela's going to start us off with the next question, but I just wanted to say I was digging it, and I will also say, because we don't want to give spoilers away, but I will say this: Poe didn't deserve that. Okay, let me just tell you right now.
I agree. I 100% agree.
I agree. Poe didn't deserve that. But
we were all just texting. Well, now we're really getting into spoiler territories, but we were all just texting each other pictures of Poe's eyes. We all kept Poe's eyes as little souvenirs.
But see, that's real life. Do we always get what we deserve? No, and I have to preface this by saying I watched it at 2 a.m, which maybe was a mistake, maybe it was perfect because I was just seeing Anna's face in the shadows, and it just stayed with me. But really, after watching it, I started asking myself a lot of questions about even my own identity and how I present myself and how that's perceived of people. And a lot of that is linked with how we present ourselves online versus how we really are. And, we're used to not trusting other people. Are they telling the truth? But when it comes to a point where can I trust myself and what I'm feeling, was that an intended result of watching the film? And I would love to talk about how you channeled that sort of madness. So if you want to start, Jane, if that was an intended, or was it a 2 a.m. result?
The film is really all about performance, in my opinion, and it's all about. I think if you go into the film and watch the film, never forgetting that you're watching a movie where we're never quite sure what's going on the other side of the character's eyes, and we're never quite sure what is acting and what is genuine. I think that there's a lot to dig into with the movie, and so much of the movie is like, I'm sure that Casey, Anna's character in the film, is just as big a fan of descent into madness films as you are, John. And it's supposed to be a movie not just about horror, but about people who love horror and who are using the sort of genre tropes of horror to try to express themselves.
Right, that's basically, Jean is very smart, but I just wanted to say that the big thing with me was that thinking about like what does it take to make like a good person convert into something that they were never supposed to be, and what was kind of like the thing that led them to that point. That's always the most interesting point, and part of the story to look at least for me. And that's the way that I really was able to channel Casey's energy, was not looking at what was necessarily on the script, but what were the days that Casey had to endure, or what people did she meet that kind of shaped her perspective on the world. Because it always is kind of, if you hate the world, you probably are going through it within your own self internally. You probably are not a great fan of yourself. At least that's the way it works for me. I love myself now and I love the world now, but that was not necessarily that when I was in ninth grade, for example.
Yeah, and I just finished watching the film this morning, so very different from Ange, but very visceral and emotional, I think. And I know it's a horror film, but I want to know if Jane and Anna can talk about the loneliness in the film and yeah, the intention of that.
Yeah, it for me, it's a lot of conceiving of the film at its earliest moments before I even had created the character of Casey, was about trying to figure out what I wanted to express about the experience of the internet. And the internet is this lonely place in a lot of ways, where the only reason we're there is because of other people, and the only reason we're there, I think, is to sort of be a part of a bigger global something, or part of something very personal with one or several other people. But there's this screen in between us. And, there's this anonymity, and there's this strange feeling. Like, I've been doing a lot of virtual parties, and, around Sundance, all these Zooms. And it's just so strange to be like, it's 2 a.m., like I'm at a bar with friends and we're just like joking and talking. And then we say goodnight and I close my computer, and all of a sudden it's just like, snap your fingers, I'm alone in my room again. And that feeling of like losing yourself in a screen, and the reality to us, it feels so personal and social and intimate. But in another reality, it's just like this interview right now. It's just me alone in a living room staring into a piece of plastic and metal.
Well, let's talk about making this movie. And Anna, I mean, anytime, of course, when you're acting, you've got to deliver, for film, a lot of texture and a lot of nuance, and a lot of stuff that is very minute and specific. And for you, it's just your face and in a lot of this that we're watching. And I would love for you to talk about how you and Jane worked to get that precision, to make sure, because it is every twitch of your eyebrows, every glance off to the side, everything is so freaking important in this film. It's vital. So please talk about that.
Right, thank you. You touched on a point that I think is very important, that it's kind of like the tiniest, most minute things that we do that really, as an actor, really shows a lot. Thank you. But well, with Jane was a person that was very, as in like very patient, and she allowed me to have a lot of time, months before filming, to actually really understand who Casey was from front to back, so that by the time we actually got on set, it was a state of mind. I was not Anna Cobb. Like, I was a minor when we were filming. I was 17 and my mom was there, and I told my mom, I said, I'm not Anna. I do not want to have any recollection of my past world. So it was really just about reacting to everything as it is. Like, I've never memorized this script. It was about me never like taking it in, like I knew what was going to happen next. Everything was a blank space. So I think probably the reason why people feel as though it was very raw and like on the spot in the moment is because I didn't even know who Anna Cobb was at that moment. It was a complete state of mind, and it was thanks to Jane. She prepared me for it a long time in advance. So
Damn. Okay. All right, Jane. Talk about it from your perspective, because again, you'll do a take and then you go, I just want just this little other thing here. So talk about how how you worked with Anna on that front.
We just found a common language and a common understanding of the character, and I tried really hard to give her a lot of space and freedom to make it her own and to fill in blanks that like I didn't want filled in even in my own brain. We worked incredibly hard, and it was to me the most important part of the entire process were those like literally months that we spent talking about each scene, rehearsing, so that when we did get to set, like we would know it so well that we could just, you know, be so versatile and will, you know, like we had it memorized, so we didn't need to have it memorized, you know. It was so second nature by that point that we were able to like experiment and find new fun, exciting things. And, you know, I think that's why it feels so subtle. And, you know, it's also just because Anna is incredibly talented and, you know, like wise beyond her years, and her psychological understanding of the character was wise beyond her years, but also just her craft and her ability to channel, you know, something that I think actors go their whole life trying to find. And she's like, it's just in her, you know, she's like she's the full package. She's like an incredibly hard, dedicated worker. And it just, her natural gift is incredible.
Thank you, Jade. God bless you, Jade. Jade, let me tell you something. The reason I was able to act good is because I was able to be vulnerable and I was able to show sides of myself that everybody kind of feels uncomfortable showing, because Jane is the most open-minded, kind person you'll ever meet in your fucking life. I love Jane. Thank you, Jane.
I guess we're allowed to curse on a podcast called Bitch Talk, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Oh,
Are
I'm
you
sorry.
kidding me? No, don't
I'm
be.
sorry.
We
The more the
welcome.
merrier.
We welcome the swearing.
Yeah, thank you. And I just, yeah, on the coattails of that, Anna, just really a fearless performance. And I did not miss anyone else on screen. I was happy to have just be watching you, and it was and zoomed in on everything you were doing. And I think your brave performance, as you said, was a reflection of Jane's brave directing. And even from the start, I'd like to talk about funding. You know, you talk about wanting to make a film for yourself and your friends, and we talk all the time about these gatekeepers, these Hollywood gatekeepers, you know, that won't let you in. And I would love for our listeners to hear how you made this film and how important it was for you to stay true to your vision and not have to answer to those gatekeepers.
You know, it was the idea from the beginning, going back half a decade almost, when I started working up the courage to think about making my first film. I've been a part of the film world for a long time. You know, I've worked in the industry, I've produced projects, I've collaborated with a lot of different filmmakers who've gone on to make films of all kinds and films of all budget sizes. And I just thought about everything I had learned and the experiences that I had seen a lot of friends have on their first film. I also thought a lot about like my personality and the kind of work that I could make, where I really thought that creatively I would be able to thrive. And, you know, from the very long before I put a single word on the page, I wouldn't call them limitations, but I set out to write a film that I knew I wouldn't have to compromise on. That like, and thankfully we didn't end up in this position, but that in a world where I really needed to, I would probably be able to do that thing where I just like bought a nice lens for my cell phone, brought a couple friends out into the woods and made a movie. This is not that version of the movie. Thankfully, we did find funders to help us make it bigger and, you know, I think better than that version would have been. But I wanted to not act out of fear, because I've just seen it happen, you know, where you write something really personal and some really confident person tells you it's not commercial, or that you need to cast this type of person, or that it needs this sort of ending. I wanted to make something from like the heart and from the gut. And so, you know, the process of actually finding the money, we got really lucky. And I did this thing that I've done once or twice before in my life, where I just write a lot of humiliating emails to anyone who's ever been nice to me.
Yep, same.
Yep, same.
we all know the feeling.
Yes.
Anyone who's ever said something nice about my work, I sent an email that was basically just like, hey, I have this thing, we're looking for money. You know, like that doesn't mean I need money from you, but do you know anyone who knows anyone who knows anyone? And you know, this eventually led us to two people who've become like two of my closest friends through the making of this movie, who run a production company called Dweck Productions, which is, you know, young and just starting out, but run by people who are like completely trustworthy and did nothing but support me emotionally and creatively, and yes, financially, and really gave me this like dream experience of like getting to make a movie without having to worry about all of the other stuff. You know, they created this safe space and bubble, and you know that let us make a movie that I think is as special as it is.
Well, you know, I think the film is such a natural progression for you, for both the films that you've promoted in the past and the films that you know, the projects and films that you've been involved in the past. And I could not give it a higher compliment by saying that it's a natural progression.
Thank you, Ron. That's so
for
sweet.
you. No, and I also want to say, because we need to wrap up, but I have to mention this, that watching the film, Anna, I had in my mind that I had not seen a debut like this or an introduction of an actor or an actress since Elliot Page in Hard Candy. And you know, and to that I can't, you know, that's the highest praise that I could give. So congratulations.
God bless you, John. That is the highest praise. I don't deserve that praise, but thank you. That is beautiful. I'm gonna remember
you,
that.
Anna, you do deserve
Thank
that
you.
praise. I mean,
Well,
Anna's sick. Anna tells me to like stop complimenting her, but I can't stop because it's like the amount that she put into this. You know, like I remember when we first cast her off of like one audition, I was showing it to filmmaker friends, and everyone I showed it to was just like, "Do you know how lucky you got finding this person?" And it's
Absolutely,
really
it's like
Yeah.
compelling as hell. I mean, it's just really, really good. And again, the film is We're All Going to the World's Fair. And anybody watching this interview, if you get a chance to go to the World's Fair via this movie, please do. Again, we've been talking to the director, Jane Schoenbrun. We've been talking to Anna Cobb. Congratulations on Sundance. And thank you both for taking time to be on our show.
Thank
you
you all.
so much. Thank you guys so much.
We
This was
loved it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.